Hello everybody. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about combinations and number of possibilities. Now, this is the beginning of probability. I'm not going to talk about probability today, but in order for you to understand what probability is, we have to start with combinations. Now, you're probably wondering, what is probability, some of you? Well, you're going to learn that in another video, so just hold on, all right? Today is how many different combinations of things can we make from coins, and how many different possibilities of the number of combinations can we make from the coins, all right? So let's first of all talk about coins. Now, what's really cool is around the world, coins always have the same sort of format. One side has a face, and the other side has something else. I put some trees on here, and that was just because it's something else. And so you don't know what it is, and so you have a face or you have something else. Now, if you think of an animal, you have at one end, like if you think of a cat, you'll have a cat, and at the end you'll have a tail. And so that cat's, you have a cat's head, and at the end you have a cat's tail, okay? So we say a head and a tail, all right? And the same with coins, we have head, and whatever the other side is, we call it a tail. It's not a tail, is it? But it really, that's what we call it, all right? So it's the other end is what we're saying, and that's why humans came up with this idea of one side is always the head, so the other side has to be the tail. Okay, so when you toss a coin, and we talk about, well, toss it up into the air, and then it will come down and it will land. So when it lands, it doesn't stay like this. It might twist and turn a little bit, then it plops down on one side. And it will plop down either on this side, in this case it's called the head, or it will go around and it'll plop down so that the head is facing up, all right? Whatever is facing up, we say, well, that's a head for this one or a tail. So there's only two possibilities for a coin when we toss it up and it lands. And in this case, it landed as like this, so the tail was up. The other possibility would be the head's up. No other possibilities, there's exactly two. So let's look at how you can use that with a whole bunch of combinations. And we're going to actually add on other coins, so you don't just have one coin, you have many others. Let's see what happens, because it's a really neat math pattern. So first of all, let's go through this. When one coin is tossed, there are only how many possibilities? Only two. Two possibilities. And it will be either a head, which we talked about, or I hope you said tail. Okay, good. All right, so you know there's two. Now, when two coins are tossed, so in other words, we have this coin and we have another one, okay, so this other one's over here, and the first one is a head, so let's say it lands, and that head is on the top, so we've got a head on the top. The second coin, so let's look at second coin, can either be, so let's say we've got this head right here, and you know there's a head. Now we take another coin, okay, so this is a head. We take another coin. This one can either land with a head or a tail, okay? So the first one landed with a head. The second one can be either a head or a tail. So we can write this down, a head or a tail. Now, what if instead that didn't land with the head, it landed with the tail? That second coin, when it lands, can either be a head or a tail too. So imagine that you've got two coins, and this is what's happening. So this is what's possible, a head or a tail. The combination here, can have a head, so the first one's a head, head, and the second one is a head. That's one combination, head. The second combination would be head-tail, okay? And then the third combination that could happen is that the first one landed with a tail, so it becomes head or a tail, and the second one is a tail also. The first coin, second coin, okay? So you have to imagine two coins are happening here. So let's do this, write this out then. If instead, so the first landed as a head, The second instance, if instead the first is a tail, the second coin can still be a head or a tail. Okay, as I've shown there. All right. Now let's pretend you have 3 coins and you're tossing 3 coins up and they all land. Okay, now what could that first coin be? Well, it could be a head or it could be a tail. The second coin, you don't know, it could be a head or it could be a tail. The third one, it could be a head or it could be a tail. So we're going to write down for each of these situations, what are all these possibilities they could be? It could be either head or a tail for each of these ways. So now notice that we're getting all the different possibilities. Okay? And again, one of the combinations could be head, tail, head. Another combination, head, tail, tail. Another combination could have started with a tail, head, tail. Okay? These are all the different combinations. The number of possibilities is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we'll look at that in a minute because it's really cool what happens with the math. Okay? And let's pretend we threw up 4 coins and they all landed. Okay, what are all the possible ways they could have landed? Well, we could have possibly had a head to begin with in coin number 1, and then a head, and then a head. And you could possibly have a head in coin number 4. Or it could have been a head, and the coin number 4 was a tail. Okay? Or it could be coin number 1 was a head, coin number 2 was a head, coin number 3 was a tail, and coin number 4 is a head. Okay? Or it could have been a tail. And you want to do this for each one of them. So you can have a head or a tail from here. So let's just look at this combination now. It could have been the first coin was a tail, the second was a head, the third was a head, and the fourth was a head. Or the first was a tail, the second was a head, the third was a head, and the fourth was a tail. Okay? Or it could have been first is a tail, the second's a head, the third is a tail, and the fourth is a head. Or the fourth could have been a tail. Okay? So you're seeing what's happening here, that each coin has either a head, it will land with either a head or a tail. So you have to include that for each one of these because there's 2 options for each of them. Now, let's look at this in many ways. We've got this cool little picture now, all right? So let's talk about what's happened. I talked a bit about the combinations. So one combination could be a head, tail, tail, head. That's one combination. Another could be a tail, head, head, tail. That's 2. So do you know how many combinations you have at the end? You can figure it out fairly easily. And let's look at the mathematics to see this. First of all, the number of possibilities when you just have one coin is 2 because you can either have a head or a tail. So number of possibilities is 2. Okay? Now, number of possibilities for coin number 2, you can either have a head or a tail. But the number of combinations, so let's call this combinations, because you can only have 2. For each of them, you can only have 2 possibilities, a head or a tail. So the combinations, you could have got a head, head, there's 1, a head, tail, that's 2. Or you could start here, a tail, head, that's 3, and a tail, tail, that's 4. All you had to do was count these, right? Okay, so you've got 4 combinations, 4 possible things that could happen, 4 combinations, okay? Now, notice that that number 4 is the same as 2 squared. Kind of cool. 2 sides, there's always 2 sides to this coin, so 2 possibilities, 2 ways that coin could have dropped. And when you have 2 coins together, that gives 2 squared. Okay, so notice that too. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, this would be one combination. This would be 2. This one would be 3. This one would be 4. This one would be 5. So you can see I can do 6, 7, 8. I could have just counted again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you know the number of combinations is, let's just write this down. So there's 8 combinations. Now if you've got 8 combinations, notice there's 3 coins. Each coin still only has 2 sides to the coin. Okay, so 2. So 2 sides, but notice 2 times 2 is 4 times another 2 is 8. You write that like this, 2 cubed equals 8. Notice I didn't do 2 times 3. It's because each time we go, we're multiplying it by 2, and then in each one of these is multiplied by 2. So you have to multiply each of these by 2, so that's like 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. So if that's the same thing, before we count all this, let's see if it's the same. Coin number 4, there's still 2 sides. So we've got that 2 here. And how many coins? Oh, look at this too. There's 3 coins, 3, 2 coins, 2. 1 coin, well, that's the same as 2 to the 1, okay? So what do you think will happen here? 4 coins, that'd be 2 to the 4th. Let's just see if this pattern continues, and we'll add it up at the end, okay? 2 to the 4th, and 2 to the 4th is the same as saying 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So this should be 16 combinations. Let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16 combinations. Each one of these represents a different pathway to get to it, so that's why it's a different combination. So yes, 16 combinations. Now, isn't this neat what has happened mathematically? Because each coin has 2 sides to it, so 2 options. It can either be a head or a tail. So that's where you get the 2. And notice that is the main number here. The number of coins used is this little number at the top, and that's called an exponent. So I'm going to just take this, and I'm going to use this 2 to the cubed here for a minute. I'm going to explain some things about this number. Because this is called a power. 2 cubed is a power of 2. The answer is a power of 2. Now, 8 is a power of 2, 16 is a power of 2, 4 is a power of 2, and 2 is a power of 2. All right, they're all multiples of 2 too, but they have this cool little way of describing it because this is a power because they have an exponent. This is called exponent. I'm going to write this down here. Okay, see if you can key in here, camera person. So this is called an exponent. That number in the top, the little one. The bottom one is called the base. And notice the base indicates the number of sides on the coin. This is important because you're going to be tossing dice as well. And dice may have 6 faces to it, and you have to use 6 instead of 2. And this number, this exponent, indicates the number of coins that you're going to use, so that way you can find out all the different combinations. Okay, so have fun with this, and make sure you understand this one so that when you get to all the different other shapes, you use the same ideas, and it doesn't really get that much more complicated. The numbers just get a little different. Thanks.